All right, this is one of the final check-ins of the semester. And Javier, one of the TAs, and I, we just want to do a quick reflection on the course and just sort of look back where we started. And we know that there's students from all over the campus and with all different backgrounds and insights. And so the vision of the course, when I designed this course, it started in 10 years ago, and it has modified and changed quite a bit over the years. But my vision is really to go from microbes from the very beginning of life to now to the future and life beyond the world. And that's what we've seen in some of the early chapters. So it's a timeline, but then at the same time, my goal was also to have all microbes, everything that affects you personally, from brushing your teeth in the morning to gut health, to your environment, your food, and everything else, to global aspects of microbiology and how it affects, global warming or bioremediation or some other things. We didn't talk about all the topics, but I hope you got the sense that we talked about from the very beginning to the future and from your personal effect with interaction with microbes to microbes around you in the global world. So that was the goal, and I hope that you picked up on some of these visions.
Yep. And I think as I really enjoyed teaching this class because it really helped me put into perspective all of the information that I have been gathering since I started my PhD about 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago. So teaching this was very, very good because it also, even, as I am being trained in my academic journey and my PhD, I also need to put a lot of effort in scientific literacy, right? Like to make everything very accessible to everyone. um, so yeah, it's a very I see I like this class. I hope that we sparked curiosity in everyone, like, because like Dr. Oli said, the microbes is like a really big topic. So we only had time to like cover fundamental aspects of microbes in general, like viruses, parasites, and we also touched topics like genetically modified organisms and antimicrobial resistance, all of these things that hopefully really spark like something in everyone, so that you get at the same time that you learn, you also can show others and teach others like about microbes and like how wonderful they are.
No, I agree, and I hope that you get a chance to talk to your friends and parents and relatives, and especially the one thing where I always can't stop saying anything when I find a germaphobe, and it's like somebody wiping the surface 5,000 times and washing their hands all the time and just being paranoid about microbes. So I have students in the lab when they look at the gram stain from their mouth, from their cheek cells, and
Right.
they see all the bacteria on it. And it's like, they're microbes. And, we should be saying that's great that they're microbes because they help us to be who we are and to stay healthy as well. So without microbes, we probably wouldn't be here.
Yep. Yep. And I think that goes all the way to the beginning of life, right? Like that's a very literal statement as well. So yeah, it was a very, very fun course. Um, I will say that my this is me personally, of course, but my favorite topic was pathogens because even though we want to really get across that microbes are beneficial and there is this very small subset of microbes that are pathogenic to humans, to me it's fascinating the mechanisms and the sort of ways that they have evolved and the things that they have done to survive, right? Because the what we wanted, well, what I tried, and also Jess talked about this, but these pathogenic microbes is not that they are like, oh, we want to get rid of humans. Is more like we want to survive, and they just happen to evolve some type of mechanism that allows them to survive, causing disease in humans sometimes. But that is fascinating. That like little is like a puzzle that is already there, and you just put it together to see, oh, okay, this is how viruses can infect someone. This is how like a microbe can survive within a cell, and how can they do these and that. So yeah, and I study pathogens, so that's probably a little biased on me to say that. But yeah, definitely. That is, and that continues to be since I'm still working on this right now.
I think the co-evolution from the very, very beginning, when you had bacteria, viruses, everything evolved together. And to be quite honest, a pathogen that kills their host is actually a really bad pathogen.
Right. That's like exactly.
But if you don't have a host where you can continue your life cycle, then you're in bad shape. And most pathogens really don't kill their host
Hmm.
because it's not beneficial. They want to keep living. So we did parasitology lab yesterday in the lab with my students, and we're looking for parasite eggs. And if you paid attention, one place where you find parasite eggs is in fecal matter and poop. And so I went 7 o'clock in the morning yesterday. I went out to collect sheep and donkey poop and brought it back into the class, and we found plenty of eggs in the poop. And none of these animals, showed any signs or symptoms of being sick. So
Right.
worms is actually a very, very normal part of animals, and it used to be of humans, and still in many parts of the world, many humans still have parasites. And now some scientists actually think that having parasites is good for our immune system. Having worms is good for our immune system. And I don't think we talked much in the class about it, but there's a newer thing called helminth therapy. So they're
Oh,
actually
yeah.
infecting people who have immune problems with worms, with worm eggs. The people get infected with parasites, and then the immune system gets stimulated.
Yeah.
And then they get treated with, the anti-worm medication, and then they're perfectly fine. But it really seems that therapy makes a big difference to enhance the immune function of a human host as well. So lots of cool stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. We have there is a it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I do um when I was studying, well, I'm still studying immunology, but we have we humans develop a specific response just for worms, like a specific immune response that is only targeted to worms, where like you have these um cell types called granulocytes that basically try to like attack a worm, and when they get detected. So it's interesting that now that there's this sort of therapy, it is used to sort of like jumpstart your immune system, and then we can get rid of the worm safely. So yeah, very cool stuff. Very interesting.
I think nowadays, a lot of diseases are autoimmune diseases.
Yeah.
People don't know where these diseases come from and where it starts. So it's an errant pathway of your own immune system, which is really hard to control once it gets started. But they think now that, enhancing the immune system with some of these therapies may be a possibility to make things better as well. And we're
Mhm.
talking with another student who chimed in a second ago. A lot of the new science comes also from the gut-brain axis. And so
Yeah. That's
Alzheimer's, we don't know how Alzheimer's starts. And there's now theories, well, that gut imbalance of microbes in your gut can be the reason for initiating or starting off the cascade that leads to Alzheimer's eventually in life. So lots of cool new things coming about.
yeah. Yeah. I was actually now that you mentioned that, last night I saw this publication, and it's one of those a scientific publication that sort of like pushes the boundary towards accepting hypotheses that are not the normative, like the rule. And what it was is that mice, and it was very interesting, mice that you teach them to do something, like for example, you have a mouse and you teach them that when it goes to the spinning wheel, you give it a little piece of like something, a reward basically. And then when you take the microbiome of that mice and you put it into another mouse, the other mouse will also sort of inherit some of those behaviors without any relation, without looking at each other, without ever being in contact with each other. for whatever reason, that microbiome, there is something that we don't, there is some kind of communication that we don't know. And then that mice will start to do something like spinning a wheel and expecting a reward without any relation, like nothing at all. Just the microbiome that you put one into the other.
Well,
And
some people call it our second brain, right?
yeah,
Our
yeah.
gut.
I mean, that's why they had the whole like gut brain. And I thought it was in the, and what I mean with pushing the boundary is that it's a very novel hypothesis because we don't think the microbiome as like another part of our um, central nervous system, right? But that's good because these like these scientific small breakthroughs lead to like some amazing discovery later on where we find out that there is this amazing connection and there's this, um, very important aspect of, for example, mental health could be like targeting the microbiome, like certain microbes and whatnot. So yeah, yeah, definitely. That's something that we covered. Like it's interesting that when we were going over the antimicrobial resistance module, right? The module 7, right? I didn't expect to actually come across this topic when we had Dr. Shish that he was talking with us and all that. I have a vague idea because some of my friends that work in the Shish lab sometimes tell me what they're doing and all that. But coming from actual Dr. Shish, it was very, very, very informative. So, even I got to learn a lot this in this class. So yeah, yep.
Pushing the boundaries, I think, is really important. And continue with the gut brain axis. And one of the things what's being done now as well, and I think it was mentioned in the video from In a Nutshell about the microbiome, talking about fecal transplant, and
Oh
that
yeah, 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 yeah.
takes somebody's poop. What you said about the mice as well, but if people have, for example, colitis or C. difficile, Clostridium difficile infection, which can be very deadly in people. They take it is now FDA approved to use to get somebody else's fecal matter and then infuse it into the other person. And the success rate is really, really, really high.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And fecal transplants are very safe as well. So very rarely do they have side effects. Obviously, the poop has to be screened for pathogens. But there was one interesting study a few years ago as well where the a mother got the fecal matter from her daughter because she was sick. I think she had Clostridium. And
Oh,
but
okay.
the daughter, she was obese. And so
Wow.
what happened after the mother recovered, she became obese as well. So again,
Oh,
the connection
okay.
between health and obesity and what we eat and crave and what foods we're looking for and longing for, a lot of it is probably gathered as well by your gut microbiome as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah, no, that's
But,
very interesting.
but most people, they've never seen insight into this world. And that's why I'm trying to have you all look into the literature or into advertisement for microbes, because some of it is about, probiotics and prebiotics nowadays as well, which has increased. But a lot of it is like, let's kill 99.9% of your microbes and mouthwash and hand sanitizer and all these things. So I hope you get a much better view now of how important the good microbes are for all of us.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. And now that you touch on that topic, I find it interesting. I have been following the GLP-1, this the drug that, and it's I think that one of
The weight loss drug, right?
the weight loss drug, yeah, the active compound of the weight loss drug, the GLP-1. But as you mentioned, you never know how the microbiome is going to respond to like some type of like medication that is novel because we don't have that mindset yet. We look more like at what biochemical differences will the patient have, but that can also affect your microbiome. And I don't think that we are the as a scientific community we're like thinking that much ahead, and that's why it's so good to have these small like microbiome like yeah, yeah, like scientific literature geared towards the microbiome so that we start like including all of these things because with the issue with GLP-1 is that many people have many different symptoms, and so far no one has been able to figure out what is the common thread. Like some people may get like very sick or very dizzy and stuff like that. And but but we haven't looked at the microbiome yet in this kind of context. So that's very interesting. It's a very, very interesting, and that applies to like any drug, you know, like in not just GLP-1, but like any kind of novel drug that is brought into the market. I think it's very important to always like keep the microbiome, like to track the microbiome somehow, to be able to be like, oh, you see these imbalance, or you see this dysbiosis of the microbiome, where you have like this or that kind of medical treatment. So
Yeah, no, there's a lot going on. A lot of research as well. When
mm,
I lived in Aberdeen, we went to visit the Rowett Center, which is a gut health institute. So the whole institute is working with gut health, but they're right next to a hospital, so they obviously have a lot of clinical things, but they're also
mm,
farmers. They work with the government to change rules and legislation. So it's really important that it not just comes from the scientific community, but it gets embedded into your behavior, what you choose to the supermarket. And that drives what's on the shelves, because when you make different choices, the companies put different things on the shelf as well. So, choosing different things, what you eat and how you behave, I think is really important as well. And then in San Diego, where I'm going to visit in December, they also have a huge microbiome innovation center. And I heard
mm.
a talk recently, and they're developing a small tool where you can check every morning. You can put a poop sample in there, and it automatically gives you a gut health score. And so
Yeah, yeah,
every
yeah.
morning you can see, let's do this, or let's go for exercise, or let's eat something different, just to make sure that you're at the best performance as you can be. Because a lot of people, I think, they just live in their head. It's like
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
important, but they forget the connection to the body. So what we eat, the exercise we do, how much we sleep, how much water we drink, and so on. All these things make a difference as well. And it's a very, very complex system. So we are still scratching the surface on how it all works. But yeah, I think that's a big, big topic of the future as well. And I hope you got the basics of it as well.
Hmm. Yep.
And then there's microbiomes of insects as well, right? Of the malaria transmission flies, of the tsetse flies, and they're trying to modify the gut microbiome with what are they called again? The Wolbachias, right?
Wolbachia, the worm, right? That's
Bacterium, I think that causes
oh
steroid.
yeah, yeah, the bacteria. Yes, yes, yes. It's where yeah.
And so, gut microbiome in insect can cause a difference in how they transmit diseases as well. So it goes a long way. It's really super interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Another thing that we cover, well, I made a series of lectures was genetically modified organisms like foods. I thought that's one of my personal favorites. I know, for example, Dr. Nian Wang, from our department, he's got a few grants, and he's looking at uh, generate these citrus, right? That can be um, resistant to the blight, right? To the fungal pathogen. Yeah, and I think that the genetically modified organisms are um, I think in general they are tended to be avoided, and I think is because we also don't fully we still don't have like how can I put it? I think people are still afraid of it, and I think that when I always read, and I try to synthesize all of the information. Um, and from what I could find when I was preparing the slides is that we haven't had any connection between GMO and human disease so far. Like they're completely safe by all standards that we have to measure. And I think it's just one of the lectures that I made was actually focusing on the strawberry that has the gene from the fish, the fish from Antarctica that can like survive the cold temperature, like when it gets frozen, that it makes this protein. So you have this strawberry that has fish proteins, but it's completely fine to eat. And then,
It
there is another
doesn't
professor.
sound very appealing to have,
It doesn't sound very appealing, but the interesting thing is that there is other ways that you can apply it. When I was an undergrad, I made these had the public speaking class, and I made it about Dr. Kevin Folta, from Horticultural Sciences, and one of his projects was using genetically modifying strawberries to make them tastier. So, and then he will have, see, in this case, is all for like the practical advantage of having something that tastes more sweet and nice, and
Also backfire. So they made genetically modified tomatoes, and
yeah,
because they wanted to have longer shelf life so that they
yeah,
can,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and during that time it lost all the flavor. So they're trying to put the flavor genes back into the tomatoes. So it can go both ways. And
Yes,
it
yes.
has no effect of GMO on humans, not directly, I think, from the food we eat, but indirectly from the GMO plants, because they're spraying all the fields with Roundup, because the plants are Roundup resistant, and there's
Hmm.
Roundup everywhere to get rid of the weeds. And there
Yeah,
has been some effect of Roundup on human health as well, and especially
right, right, right.
the microbiome as well. So not necessarily what we eat, but the way it is produced
Yeah, the way it's processed. Yeah, yeah.
and
It's
the spraying of the pesticides and weed killers as well with the Roundup. So it's a complicated system, and we try to make
very,
things
yeah,
better,
yeah.
but sometimes it goes the wrong way. And that's I think that's another important part of science, that
Hmm.
science is not linear. Science isn't fixed. What was written 10 years ago may or may not be true today. And things
That's
change all the time. And I think when during the pandemic, when everybody complained that the CDC changed their minds, well, they changed their minds because they had new evidence and there were new
right, right,
things
right,
and new treatments and new approaches. And I think we need to be very open-minded when it comes about science, and that things do change. And it's important that science changes because it means we have new evidence. So
right,
that's another
right.
really complicated topic, is, how we evaluate science. But again, that's why we want you to think about, what do you see out there, and is it actually factual? And if you're interested, read the book by Hans Rosling, Factfulness. I think it's really, really impactful, because a lot of times we get numbers thrown at us, or information thrown at us without a comparison,
Right.
without, even on the news it says, oh, today is significantly lower temperatures than on average, but how much lower, and what's
Right, right.
deviation on an average day in November? So I think thinking behind that and being critical about what we hear from scientists, from the news, from social media, from everywhere, I think is really, really important. You don't take everything face value.
Hmm. Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, that's something that I trying to emphasize in all of the assignments that we did and all that, to when the students cited, to avoid citing like blog posts, or like more like the NIH and the WHO and all of these things that at least have some validation performed on them by third parties as well. So yeah,
Or
yeah,
peer reviews of article,
peer
which
reviews,
most
yeah,
of the time it's a great process. Sometimes you get some bias as well, and you sometimes, get papers retracted even after they had
yeah,
peer.
yeah,
So, and I think, now we're really at a inflection point in science and in the world, with AI coming on board.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I know
absolutely.
that many of the students have used AI, some for the good, but some just to finish an assignment, which, you don't learn a lot. But
Yeah, no, it's fascinating, the whole AI. This is, do you remember I was telling you? So so I'm working with some collaborators from biomedical engineering, and we are making these very interesting experiments with a parasite that I work with, that affects the liver, that it causes. And when you do experiments, you have to find a way to quantify the information that you're gathering, right? Because I can tell you, oh, I saw this, but if I show you what I saw in a way that you can understand with some type of quantification, that will aid the peer review process. So to get to the point where we are, we actually ask AI what we the best way to quantify the data that we had. See, because we were and the good thing is that our PIs, our the principal investigators, were on board, because when you come with from it's science, you have these rigorous and very inflexible ways that you can quantify the data. Like this is how we do it, and that's it. But and it was not me, it was actually my partner, my counterpart in this lab. She went to this AI called oh, I forget what's the name of the AI, but it's geared towards scientific use. And it was like, how can we do this? And then they gave us the idea to use a software called Cell Profiler. It gave us an idea of the pipeline. It gave us, see, like we had the idea, like we know what we want to get done. The idea came from us, but the in between steps, the A was amazing. It really gave us like these very unbiased approach to quantify all that. So I'm very I would say that a few years ago, maybe 2, 3 years ago, I was a little bit hesitant. I was a little bit I didn't think that AI could aid me in these ways. I thought it was for some other kind of things. But the creative ways that people are coming up, how to use it. And yes, unfortunately, like you mentioned, some people use it, just to get something done, but they're missing out so much. They're missing out on so many things that um, I'll tell you a little story. One of my hobbies, well, I think it's my favorite hobby, is actually I like to write stories. I like this is a hobby that I have with my younger siblings since we were very young, where we are big fans of like Star Wars and all this sci-fi and fantasy. And sometimes when I write something, I get stuck. And a week ago, I was in Google Gemini, and I was putting in my ideas, my own words and everything. And AI had these amazing ways to like just flow it. And I took a picture of it. I took like 20 pictures of it, and I sent it to my brother. My brother is my biggest fan and critic, right? And it's just amazing because it really can connect. And and with that new connection, you have a different insight. See, but I think the bottom line is that it all comes from the person, and AI is just a tool to help you arrange all of the words and all that stuff. So I think it's unbelievable. It's just and it comes with things that you just don't really see, but it's there. Like I had this idea and another idea, and AI was able to mix them, and I was like, wow, that's very cool. Like so yeah, I think AI has a lot of potential, a lot of
I,
potential.
I very much agree with you as well. And I think sometimes for us as non-native English speaker, my language is English is Spanish.
Right,
And
right, right.
sometimes just to express something in a different language, and I'm also much more of a visual learner. So I can draw images all day long with Byron and other things.
Oh yeah, yeah, like yeah, I enjoy that.
In that image, just they're great tools. I think where the danger comes in is when people use it without knowing and thinking through, because
Yeah.
it makes a ton of mistakes and it doesn't
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
have any logic either. And references are really often still most of the time wrong. We had in another assignments in another class in my online lab, it made up a scientific name and it was so wrong that I couldn't believe it that somebody would actually put that in an assignment because it just was so wrong. So
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah, yeah.
person got in. I mean, again, I think we need to learn how to use it wisely. I think it's
Yeah.
a great tool. It's not going to go away, just like the internet, but we can't just take it face value because it makes a lot of mistakes.
Absolutely, yeah, 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 yeah. You still need that like a level of expertise where even if you know the answer, you can intuitively know that is wrong or something is off, and then you go and cross-reference it. And so, yeah, absolutely, yeah,
It makes a ton of mistake. And again, it doesn't have logic. It just puts words behind each other.
yeah,
It's
yeah. That's the thing. It really is very good at convincing you that it's logical. You know what I mean? Like it's very good at because like you said, I have also noticed like a lot of mistakes, but I'm like, oh, that doesn't make any sense. But it's so clever at it's very well tailored to the
yes.
person that is asking a question. So
The advice to students, use it wisely, and it can be an amazing tutor, helper, idea creator, writer, editor, companion in doing something, exploring, travel itineraries and a million other things. But
yeah.
don't just use it like Google and assume it provides the right answer. It can be really wrong, and it can also, depending on the model what you're using, it can also be very biased.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
be very careful what it can do and what it does. So, but yeah, no, it's a whole new world. And again, in terms of writing and even images and everything, what I'm a little bit afraid of, I guess is the right word, is to blur the line between reality and fiction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's definitely and the thing is that these kind of things kind of snowball. So they they start snowballing and picking up. So yeah, it's very realistic now, like the kind of things that compared to like 2 years ago, because it's unbelievable how quickly it's advancing.
And
Because you also have all of these companies that are competing against each other. So they don't stop for a second to think what is ethical or morally like upright, just who can get it done first. And then they make like unbelievably amazing results, but you have to stop and think like, okay, what are the negative or consequences of doing so? So yeah, absolutely. It's a very we could have like a whole
I know
discussion about
we
this.
should maybe next week or something. But yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's interesting. And like, even I think I heard a report that maybe almost 20% of YouTube content now is created with AI.
yeah, no, no, yeah, absolutely. Even in, for example, on series of like Netflix and stuff like that, I was seeing. Oh, there was these. I watch sometimes. I get bored and watch Netflix, but they were being criticized a lot because a lot of like stuff that is background, they are no longer using like artists, but just like randomly generated images to put. And it's interesting because we can still tell the difference right now. We can still tell the difference, but
Maybe.
I,
I don't know.
I would say that but as we progress and the AI gets better, then it'll be basically. But yeah, I think that it's definitely something that will have to have its own moderation eventually. It'll have to have its own like something that keep track of it, and yeah, but it's very interesting. I will say that is.
It's harder for this young generation as well to figure out, what's right and wrong. When can you use it? How should you use it? And so on. But I think the bottom line is, keep your motivation for learning. Be curious and ask
Yeah,
questions.
absolutely. Yeah.
Don't take things for face value. I think that's a really, really important lesson. And don't believe necessarily what a textbook says or what an instructor says, or sometimes parents are wrong too. I mean, my kids have caught me at one or two occasions.
Yeah, yeah, that's even the PAs, right?
That's right.
No, no, but yeah, no, it's yeah, I think that curiosity is really the driving force of science. I think is like that like fascination, that like really passion. It's what this experiment didn't work. Okay, I'll try again next time. And but with these mistakes that I made, I'm gonna learn something new. Yeah, I think that will never. I think there is always and that will never fade away. I think that ever since like Plato um said that humans were birds, like he said like humans are just based on the observations that he made, but that on itself was already a scientific he was very wrong, right? But that scientific drive to try to understand the universe will never fade away. I'm very confident that even with everything that we have, that you always will spark curiosity in someone, and then they will like sprout and like spark it on someone else, and so on and so on. That's not my worry at all. Like I think that's just it's funny because it's I was inspired by someone else, many people, and then inadvertently, without your knowledge, you inspire other people, and so on and so on. So yeah, that's the driving force of science. Absolutely.
I think bottom line, and to wrap it up, I hope we put little sparks in you, and some curiosity, and showed you some things which I hope you didn't know before. and hopefully it can propagate and it can continue with you and you get curious about more microbiology, because it is just like AI, it's something that's going to be more and more in the future. Everything from the good things, food, environmental, cleaning up and so on, to the bad things, to all the pathogens and antimicrobial resistance. So you'll encounter your microbes again and again when you brush your teeth tomorrow morning. Don't forget why you do that.
Yep.
All right.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks helping for this course and making it so interesting and cool and sharing your research and insights. I really
Oh, it
appreciate
was.
your support.
Yeah, I'm glad for the opportunity. Yeah, I had a lot of fun actually. It's just that, I wish I had a little more time because, my own research takes, but I really enjoy this. Like I get excited when I actually get to do like some lecture or something, because then I can put my own experiences, and I think that's a shared experience is that what really can get it makes the accumulation of knowledge fun. Say not just like this, like very, just like monotonous activity. No, you share an experience and then you learn something, and then it's fun. It's fun to learn, and it's fun to.
Pass it on.
um,
Yeah. All right. I hope you all have a great rest of the semester. We'll check in one more time and then in your reflections as well, give us some examples and also tell us what we can do better next time. And I appreciate your help.
All right.
Thanks
See
then.
you like next
Bye.
week.